Hey everyone, welcome back to AI with Pallavi. Ready to learn another AWS service in just 10 minutes? Let's get started. So, what is Amazon S3? Amazon S3 is an object storage service. It can also store files as object inside buckets, and it's highly durable. Think of it like Google Drive but for applications. Now, S3 is one of the widely used services within AWS, and it's one of the first services as well which was launched by AWS. And since then, it has gained a lot of popularity. So, this is the homepage of S3 console, and you can see there are different types of buckets present there. There are general purpose buckets, directory buckets, table buckets, vector buckets. So based on the use case, you can decide which type of bucket you would like to use. There is also a new feature very recently launched related to file systems. So you can also use your S3 objects as a files as well right now, just by minimal configuration. So it can also act as a file system now. So let's quickly go ahead and see how we can create a bucket. So as soon as you go ahead and try to create a bucket, you will have to choose the region. You will have to choose the bucket type, whether you want a general purpose, which is recommended for most use cases, or a directory one where you want low latency use cases, right? So these buckets use S3 Express 1 zone storage class, and it actually provides high performance. One critical thing with S3 is the name. So you need to choose the name for your S3 buckets very critically. By default, S3 creates general purpose buckets in global namespace. If you want regional namespace, which would be specific to your region, right, and unique in your account, that is also possible. So you just have to give a name. Let me give the name as demo Pallavi, and we just have to choose the settings. If you want to copy the settings from existing bucket, then we have to choose the ownership. So ACLs are disabled by default, like who can own the objects which are present in the S3 bucket. If you want, you can go ahead and enable ACLs as well. This is more around controlling the data right within your bucket. You also have to take care of the public access of the bucket, because by default all public access of the object is disabled. So if you really want to make your bucket public, you have to ensure that it's there. You might also get some alerts from AWS if you uncheck it, but you just have to acknowledge and go ahead. So that's how you can do it. I'm just blocking it for now. If you want that only your account, right, the APIs within your account, the applications within your AWS account should be able to access internally your bucket data, then you have to just turn it off, because there will be no public access to your application, right? Application data. You can also enable bucket versioning. You can also enable tags in the bucket, then encryption. So S3 provides server-side encryption as well to all the objects which are stored in the bucket. Now, if you want to change the key which is being used for the encryption, you can do that. There are some advanced second settings as well. If you want to put some object lock, you can do that as well. So once all of these settings are checked, you can go ahead and create your own bucket. Again, so this is the error you get if there is already a bucket present for the name which you have given. So let me give it another name, and it should be able to create this particular bucket. Now once this bucket is created, there are more settings which you can do. You can upload the objects directly to the bucket. Let's try to upload one of the object there. So we have uploaded the object. If you want, you can have permissions related to the object, the properties, the storage class. So there are different storage class as well present within S3. So storage class actually helps you to identify the range how you would like to store these objects. There are different tiering options present. For example, standard. For frequently accessed data, you should choose this. Intelligent tiering will be used for data which is changing and you don't know the access pattern. So based on that, it will be stored in different locations. It will be billed as well accordingly, right? So there are billing associated with the storage class. If you also want to store it into Glacier later, right? If you want to archive and then store it to Glacier, then there's specific storage classes as well present there. There are different things present. If you want to have server-side encryption at that particular object, you can do that. You can have checksums as well if you want to set that for data integrity and verifications and all that information. If you want to add some specific type, right, the content type, because when you are accessing these objects from an application, you might have to mention what is the content type of this data, right? So you can define some metadata related to that object, like different headers, and you can add the values as well. So all this is pretty much possible within the S3. So here I'm just uploading a particular document, and let's see what happens once we upload it. So once we upload it, it actually gives us a link to access that particular object. Now that link would be very critical because you will be able to use that link to access this object across uh, different AWS services, or across, let's say, from the public access as well, if you have enabled it. So once the object is uploaded, you can just go ahead and look at that object, and you should be able to see the different, you can say, permissions and properties of that particular object. You should be able to see the S3 UI, the ARN of the object, the E tag of the object, and the object URL as well if you want to access. Now, if I click on this, it will open in public, but since I've declined the public access, so I won't be able to view it, but otherwise you should be able to do it. You can download it. You have certain object actions as well, like you can share this object with a pre-signed URL. It's nothing as different but just a authenticated URL, right? You can query with S3 select, you can rename this object, edit the storage class, and a lot more details. So all of this information is present here, and you should be able to make the changes there. Now, if we go back to our bucket, you will see that there are different configuration within the bucket as well. So you can add the bucket metadata. You can have different properties within the bucket, as I mentioned, the versioning, access control, right, the tags, the encryption, tiering, and other events. Now, this is one part which is super important, that is event notifications. If you want, as soon as there is an object, right, uploaded in this particular bucket, with a specific prefix, specific suffix, right? In that case, or there are different event types, whether it's a put, post, copy, multi-part upload on this particular event type on this particular bucket. In that case, if you want to do any action, right? So you can select some destinations. You can select either Lambda function, SNS topic, or SQS queue. Now it's very easy to configure this. So as soon as there is an upload, let's say, or any of this action which you have chosen happens, in that case a Lambda function will be triggered. Now here you might see another option of life cycle, right? Whenever the object life cycle changes or the bucket life cycle changes, in that case also you can trigger this particular event. So event notification is one of the most used feature of Amazon S3. So ensure that you know about it. There are a few other features as well, like static website hosting. So you can use this bucket to host a website or redirect requests directly. You don't need a front end, you don't need a back end, you just need the static website hosting to just initiate that request, right? You can have a page called index.html, and you should be able to redirect the users to this particular website. So all of this information is already present in the properties of S3. So you can go ahead and look at that. If you want to change the permissions related to this S3 bucket, you have to configure the bucket policy. This is super important. The majority of issues happening with S3 is related to the bucket policy. So just ensure that you put the right bucket policy, right? And you ensure that if public access is blocked, you should be able to check why it is blocked, whether you have enabled it or not. If you're unblocking that, then you have to define a very critical bucket policy here, because it's very important to define the bucket policy. So let me give you a sample bucket policy, so which will be useful for understanding what it is. So I'm just pasting a bucket policy which is allowing any principal or any IAM user to perform the action of S3 get object on this particular bucket, right? So here I can give my bucket names. This is a sample policy. If I want to give my bucket name as demo v2026, so this will be the bucket name, and anything under this bucket. If I want to restrict further to a folder, let's say a test folder, this is how the policy changes. So that's how you can change the policies, and you can add new statements in the policies, and that's why the policy is super important. Other than that, you also have metrics associated with that bucket. You can manage the bucket data as well via different sources, like you can set up lifecycle rule. So lifecycle rule helps you to identify how the changes happens within the bucket. So you can define the rule name, and whenever there is any change related to that particular lifecycle of an object or the bucket, then the rule triggers. Let's say transition current versions of object between storage classes. This can be a rule action. Then expire current versions of objects. So you can define the life cycle of a particular bucket object accordingly. So this is also one of the super important feature which actually helps managing all your objects. So that is about S3, and that is about the S3 buckets which we have. Do explore the new features as well for file systems, as well as access points which are used to access the buckets in different regions. So these are the major fundamentals we have within S3 buckets, and it's super easy to use. Go ahead, try it out. And that's all about S3. And just like that, you have learned another AWS service in 10 minutes. Hit that subscribe button if you like this video, and comment if you have any questions related to this service, or if there is any service you want me to focus next. Happy learning!